We have a lot of news and notes to catch up on today. We have a Casey Mize contract. We have international free agency for 2025 to talk about. We have the coaching staffs for all the levels of the Tigers minor leagues that were announced. We have a trade that happened, top prospect lists, a lot of news and notes to go over. Let's talk about it all today on Locked On Tigers.
You are Locked On Tigers, your daily Detroit Tigers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Tigers. I'm, of course, your host, Scott Bentley. Today is Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. Thank you so much for making Locked On Tigers your first listen. Every single day, we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Alrighty, everybody, welcome back. Hope you're having a fantastic week so far. Obviously, no episode on Monday. Had a bit of a crazy Sunday around was at the Red Wings game, Lions game before. Had some stuff with the Detroit News to do as well that popped up. So we're back though on Wednesday. Don't plan on missing any more anytime soon. So I apologize, but again, we're back, baby. All right. So happy Wednesday. Like I said, we have a lot to go over today, which is kind of exciting. Again, the last couple of episodes, we've actually had some real news to discuss. And I want to get right into it. So we're going to talk about Casey Mize and the new contract that he got. We're going to talk about the new coaching staffs at all the levels of the minor league. The organizational coaching staff was announced. We're going to talk about international free agency for next year. The Tigers are linked to a really, really, really highly regarded prospect in that class, which is super exciting. We'll talk about the implications of that. Tyler Nevin is traded. He was DFA'd last week, obviously. And then we have some Baseball America top prospect rankings involving your Detroit Tigers in them as well. All right, so let's talk Casey Mize for starters. Casey Mize is not going to arbitration. What was it, last week and a half, maybe even 2 weeks ago already? We had a discussion on here about how I didn't really like the optics of this team going to arbitration with Casey Mize, and it bothered me. And the team is also a file and trial club, which is something that if you've been reading articles by our amazing beat writers or just kind of had your ear to the streets here, you've heard that phrase a lot. Essentially, that just means that after the deadline has passed to come to an agreement, the Tigers do not offer one-year contracts to players after the arbitration deadline is passed. So you can offer multi-year deals, but not one-year deals. The Tigers don't do one-year deals after the deadline is passed. Not every team is, but a lot of teams are. The Tigers are one of those teams. Whether that's leverage to make sure that a deal gets done beforehand. That's clearly worked very well. The Tigers have very rarely gone to arbitration with anybody in my entire life. So maybe it's worked out for them, but that is something that the Tigers are, a file and trial club. So once this deadline passed, the belief was, okay, well, unless the Tigers are going to pony up a multi-year deal to Mize, which seems unlikely, right? It seemed unlikely because if they were arguing over whatever it was, $25K, and he hasn't pitched barely at all in the last 2 years, I don't know if there's really too much implications that, or too much confidence rather, that the Tigers would have in giving him a multi-year deal, but I guess a club option counts as a multi-year deal in the eyes of the Tigers. So they signed him to a one-year deal, but there is a club option for year 2. And that 1 year deal is, I believe, $830,000 contract for the 2024 season with a club option for the 2025 season. The club option is $3.1 million. If he's if he pitches the whole season and stays healthy and naturally progresses, then that would, that's not too far off from the that's fine. That's around like arbitration caliber numbers, I guess, is my point. Casey Mize. Also, there is a buyout. There's a great article written by Evan Petzold of the Free that kind of breaks down this entire contract. There is a buyout in his contract. It's like only like 10 grand, quote unquote, only 10 grand. But if that club option is to get declined, then he gets that buyout and he still remains arbitration eligible, which is going to be a big thing for him, obviously, and for the team. So it's not necessarily the club option gets declined next year and Mize just guaranteed isn't coming back. But it would be a lot messier, certainly, than if the club just accepted it and they just went in. And I would imagine that they don't offer that if they don't have some confidence that he is going to be worth that in 2025. So there you go. Gets Mize what he wants, a little bit more chance at security, but also doesn't gets the Tigers what they want, which is not a long-term and high financial commitment to a guy who hasn't pitched in 2 years. Seems like I don't know if it's best of both worlds or like kind of like both sides like, oh, okay, like we kind of got it done. But regardless, it is done. It is finalized, and the Tigers won't go to arbitration with Casey Mize, which is 2 thumbs up for me. Okay. Next thing on the docket, the coaching staff for the organization was released over the weekend, and there's some notable names in here. The Tigers, what is this account even called? I always forget. Detroit Tigers Player Development at Road to Detroit on X, the app. There is that'll never be weird for me. It'll always be Twitter, but on X, that is the account name and must follow if you're in for the Tigers. Just keeps tabs on all the the movings and the happenings in the Tigers minor league system. Some great stories on there as well. But they tweeted out the entire coaching staff for every single team at every level of the minors for the Detroit Tigers. Some of the noteworthy ones, Gabe Alvarez going back to Erie, I think is awesome. I'll tell you this, dog. I am rather confident that in the next 5 years, Gabe Alvarez, if not going to have a MLB managerial job, is at least going to start getting interviewed for it. I don't think that's like an overnight thing. I think he'll probably need to be a coach at the major league level for a little bit before he makes that jump straight to like MLB manager. But by pretty much all accounts, this dude is an absolute rising star within the organization, and he was in the running to be one of the base coaches for the Detroit Tigers this past year. Didn't get that. The Tigers got some people that already had some connections to the organization and or AJ Hinch. So he returns back to Erie, seems very happy about it. Erie is thrilled about it. And because he's had nothing but success over the last 2 years being the manager there. So he returns to AA Erie. And again, just someone I think everybody should keep their eye out for getting poached by bigger and bigger positions if it's not going to happen internally. Because I think he does a fantastic job down there. And by pretty much all accounts, that's a shared sentiment. So Gabe Alvarez returning to AA Erie. Tim Federowicz, I always have to say his name slowly because I always screw it up. The new manager of AAA Toledo. And I am pretty excited about that one as well. Tim was a Tigers coach last year, worked with the catchers a lot. So that's something to kind of keep an eye on there now that he's getting a managerial look, but something that I like, and I really like him. Catchers have a nice pipeline to becoming managers and high-end coaches. So that's obviously something to keep an eye out for. But the Tigers really like him. Hinch really likes him. So I like that. I want everyone to be on the same page within this organization. And it sounds like him being the manager of AAA Toledo is something that everybody is on the same page about. So I'm all for that one. Let's keep the ball rolling. I got a couple more I want to talk about as well, and then we'll move on to international free agent talk and some more conversations, some more news and notes, obviously, to be had. We'll do that right after I tell you all about our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL regular season has wrapped up, but there's still time to get in on all the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. How about them Lions, baby? How about them? The Lions in the NFC Championship game. Now is a fantastic time to get in on all the fun that comes with that, aside from just the fact that heck has frozen over. And get in on the action with FanDuel. New customers with FanDuel can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use. There's so many different ways to bet as well. Live same game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in Parlay Hub, which is like the best new fun way to find popular bets and popular parlays and more. Traditional spreads, money lines, etc. So visit fanduel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Also got to tell you all about our friends over at Ibotta. The new year for so many people means resolutions, and a lot of those resolutions are to save money. So stop shopping without getting anything in return and start getting cash back on every purchase you make with Ibotta. Look, Ibotta is a free app that gives you the most cash back every time you stop on hundreds of items from groceries, shop, not stop, for hundreds of items, groceries, beauty supplies, toys, you name it. So you can make sure you get the best deals, and you can make sure you beat inflation as well, no matter what you are purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns over $145 a year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, buy that flight you've been eyeing, that game you're dying to go to, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't really amount to much at the end of the day. With Ibotta, just add your offers in the app, upload your receipt, and you get real cash that you can cash out in your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. So join over 50 million savers and earn cash back every time you shop at over 2,700 brands and realtors, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and so much more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app and start earning cash back and use code LOCKEDONMLB, all one word. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and code LOCKEDONMLB. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Segment 2 of Locked On Tigers. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, making us your first listen every single day. Shout out to the everydayers that do tune in every day. We will, of course, be back on Friday. Also, be sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. It is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Okay, so talking about the coaching staff here, a couple other noteworthy ones I want to point out. Obviously, Brian Pena, we talked about earlier in the offseason, no longer going to be managing High Michigan, or High A West Michigan, rather, getting a big-time promotion there within the organization. Can't wait to see how he interacts with everybody in spring training and whatnot. But Tony Cappuccilli, who was the Mud Hens bench coach last year, will get the manager job for the Whitecaps. So that'll be awesome to see, obviously. I'm trying to think if there's any other kind of big name ones here. But like I said, there's a whole tweet that just kind of breaks down or post, whatever, that breaks down all of the moves that have happened for the Tigers and all of the coaching staffs at every level. That is the last one that I wanted to point out. Anthony Iapoce, who was the Tigers manager, the Mud Hens manager, rather, for the Tigers organization, obviously. He was the Mud Hens manager last year. He is now the Tigers' first base coach. We talked about that a couple of months ago when it happened, but just wanted to reiterate that. That is why there's a vacancy at manager at AAA Toledo. So I wanted to make that clear as well. There's the DSL Tigers and the rookie level kind of FCL type of levels below single A even, right? Those have a lot of manager turnover as well. So again, be sure to check it out at Road to Detroit, has the full list online. Okay, so I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for the coaching staff stuff. Let's talk about international free agency. In 2025, now we talked last week about the Tigers' international free agency success or lack thereof, really historically, and especially over the last 10 years. There are a lot of different strategies when it comes to international free agency, and the Tigers have not been a big player in international free agency for really my entire life. They've never been prominent players. They've never walked away with a top 5, even a top 10, really even most times, not even like a top 20 international free agent prospect. And when you look around baseball, it's really hard to be a prominent player and be a fixture in like the top farm systems in baseball if you're not a prominent player, is how I should word it, in the international free agency game. Just look at the best players in the league right now. They're not all just draftees, right? A lot of them were international free agents. A lot of them, an awful lot of them, right? So if you want to have sustained success in your minor league system and sustained development, you need to be a much bigger player in the international market than the Tigers have been in my entire lifetime. Nonetheless, the last 10 years. And they broke the bank a little bit for guys like Christian Santana, who did not hit very well last year and is still in the lower levels of the minors, but is still very young. Obviously, Roberto Campos was like the biggest name that we've signed internationally probably in my lifetime. And again, he wasn't like a bona fide top end guy. He was just the biggest one as far as signing fee. He was the biggest one the Tigers had ever had in the history of the franchise. He got the biggest bonus, and then Christian Santana obviously topped him. So it's something that a lot of people, myself included, would really like to see them take a bigger step in. And the 2024 class, I'm not going to call it underwhelming. We broke this down. We broke down the players that they got and kind of their profiles a little bit last week. If you want a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown on the 2024 class, I'm not going to call it underwhelming because, as I said in that episode, they're just so far away. They're kids, right? These are like 16, 17-year-old kids. It's so hard to predict what they're going to become, how they're going to develop, etc. But as far as just the international rankings go, the prospect rankings, these guys are beyond 30, even 40, sometimes not even in the top 50 rankings, and they're like our best gets. And that's a relatively common thing over the last 10 years for the Tigers international classes. Another thing that's important to remember with these is that a lot of these guys kind of know, I want to choose my words carefully here, they oftentimes know where they are going to sign well before signing day. Okay, I'll put it that way. There's a lot of somewhat understanding of what team they are going to sign with when these kids are literally like 14 years old. Which is, 2 years before they sign, and another 2 years before they're in like the minor league system more times than not. So a lot of these kids sign at 16, 17 and have at least an idea, at minimum, an idea of where they're going to go at 14 or 15. So when you hear something like what I'm about to tell you, you get a little bit excited. The Tigers are linked to 2025 top international free agent Chris Rodriguez. That means that they have not signed him. They will not be allowed to sign him for another calendar year. Early January 2025 will be when. But by pretty much all accounts, this dude is absolutely going to be a Detroit Tiger next year. He is the runaway favorite by pretty much, again, everybody that is reporting on the situation. And there is a chance that by then he is a borderline, if not just straight up top 5 international free agent in the entire class. And most people have him as kind of a bona fide top 10. Joe Doyle, who does a great job with prospects just in general, draft prospects, international free agency, etc., works for FSS Plus. And he posted a video of him hitting a home run, Chris Rodriguez hitting a home run, said he profiles to be a right fielder, a top 10 player in 2025, and may end up in the top 5 in 2025. Massive offensive tools, physical as hell is the quote that he has. Says if the bat clicks, he's absolutely a middle of the order impact bat. Looks to be pretty athletic as well. So just a physical kind of specimen at that young of an age. Again, very, very athletic, beautiful swing, beautiful swing. I highly recommend you check out the video. Again, Joe Doyle tweeted it out. I'll retweet it as well, so it's kind of easy to find. But yeah, very, very exciting. Very exciting. For something, a week and a half ago, we were talking about, like the improvement in the international free agent market may take a while, right? It may take years to even get established in there because so many of these kids are have an idea or know where they're going to end up at such a young age. It's nice to see that next year we could see one of the best players in that entire class sign with the Detroit Tigers. Probably going to be a pretty penny. $3 to $4 million signing bonus would be my my kind of idea of my range, and that would be one of the highest the Tigers have ever done. But very exciting stuff. And there's different strategies, like I said earlier, when it comes to international free agency. There's some teams that will kind of spread it out, and that's what the Tigers did for a long time. We're not going to get any of the top end guys, so we're going to spread out the money that we have for it and just get a bunch of guys that are outside of the top 50 or outside of the top 100. Or there's teams that break the bank on the top end players. And the Tigers look like they're kind of in a position, especially if they can get him for only, quote unquote, $3.5 million to maybe do both and maybe get a borderline top 5 player in this class, as well as still have some money to go on and sprinkle in a lot of other talent around him as well. So an exciting report, something that again is way in the future as far as like terms of when you would see him, even in the Tigers minor league system. Nonetheless, at the major league level, you're talking half a decade from now, but still an exciting report as well. You got to start somewhere, right? That is something, I know it's like cheesy and cliche and pisses people off, but Rome wasn't built in a day. And this is like the exact definition of that. The international free agent market is the epitome of Rome wasn't built in a day. You got to do a lot of stuff there and got to put in a lot of work in that market. And if the Tigers, assuming they will end up with him, that's going to be a really exciting thing. So we'll keep an eye on that, obviously, as the year goes around. Let's keep the ball rolling. I want to talk a little bit about Tyler Nevin and then some top prospects in the Tigers organization. We will do all of that right after this. We talk about sports here all the time, kind of an escape for a lot of people, but real life, there is a big, calling it a bug is probably an understatement. The flu is running around like crazy. It's a very, very aggressive flu season for many and for all of us. Thankfully, we'll be okay because of Jace Medical. The Jace case is something that Jace Medical offers, and it's a pack of 5 different antibiotics that treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, sinuses, skin infections, amongst others. This stuff could happen to any of us. So visit jacemedical.com and complete a physician encounter. It'll be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. So go to jacemedical.com and use code LOCKEDON, all one word, capital L, capital O, and get $20 off of your order. All right, everybody, welcome back here. Third and final segment, Locked On Tigers. Appreciate you all for tuning in as always. So we are discussing, we just finished talking about international free agency. Hopefully the momentum that is being gained by the Detroit Tigers in the future in that regard. And let's talk about Tyler Nevin, who was traded back to the Baltimore Orioles, where the Tigers, where he played for before. He was signed by the Detroit Tigers. And, whoa, what? Wow. The Milwaukee Bucks just dismissed Adrian Griffin. I wonder what that's about. That's a wild notification to get in the middle of recording. Not going to talk about basketball here, but big deal, certainly, in the sports world. So Tyler Nevin, traded back to the Baltimore Orioles just for cash. Really anticlimactic, not a big deal. A lot of people confused because we DFA'd him. That's what DFA means. You remove him from the 40 man, and then you have X amount of days. It's changed over the years. I believe currently it's 10, but it's kind of gone back and forth over the years on how many days you have after DFAing to either cut the person outright, waive them, or trade them, et cetera, et cetera. And the Tigers traded him back to the Baltimore Orioles, where he will return. And who knows how much cash they got. It could be anywhere from $1 to, tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Who knows? But he was traded back to the Baltimore Orioles. This changes nothing from the Tigers' perspective because he was already removed from the 40-man, right? He was already DFA'd. So there is no update. There is no corresponding move. There is no, the Tigers have a 40-man roster spot open now. There is none of that. He was already removed from the 40. Sweet, who we talked about, the Tigers. What is happening? Now Doc Rivers is going to be the wild time to be recording. Doc Rivers may be the new Bucks coach. Not sure what's going on there. But that is essentially it. Very, very straightforward stuff. Traded for cash, and the Tigers don't need to make a corresponding move. So their 40-man is still at 40 men. Okay. We already kind of broke down the removal of Tyler Nevin. Did I actually say Alexander? I don't think so. We already discussed the removal of Tyler Nevin from the 40-man roster on last week's episode when we DFA'd him. So if you want a more in-depth kind of breakdown of that and of Sweet, the player that we claimed to replace him on the 40-man, you can go check that one out. We'll end the show by talking about the 4 players that are on the Baseball America's top 100 prospect list that are our Detroit Tigers. That is Max Clark, Jackson Jobe, Colt Keith, and Jace Young. In that order, Max Clark is 19th, Jackson Jobe is 20th, Colt Keith is 28th, and Jace Young is 81st in the top 100. That's awesome. Having 4 prospects in the top 100 on anybody's list is fun. I always tell people, list grain of salt type of stuff. Not grain of salt. That's not actually what I want to say. You have to take it all in stride and really have your own perspective on these guys. No organization ever has been like, oh my goodness, so-and-so's website says that this prospect is ranked higher than this prospect. So this is a bad trade because we could have got a higher ranked guy on so-and-so's website. But from our perspective, from the media's perspective, from the fans' perspective, from everybody, these people that work for these websites do a boatload of work and have so much knowledge and connection. And so seeing their opinion is awesome and so cool. And I respect all of their opinions immensely and appreciate all of the hours and hours and hours of work that they do to put these lists together. You just have to remember that it is an opinion piece as well. None of this is factual, and who knows who's going to be the best prospects to end up on these lists. So use someone else's opinion to kind of give you a different perspective than maybe your own opinion. That's kind of how I view it. I love the fact that we have 4 in the top 100. That's absolutely awesome. 3 in the top 30 is fantastic. The Tigers at one point had 5 in the top 25, I want to say. Back around COVID. That would have been Mize, Manning, Skubal, Green, Torkelson. All would have been top 25 prospects in baseball at the same time for preseason 2020 or 2021. Yeah, 2020 probably. Oh, maybe they were still prospect status in 2021 actually, because the COVID year was weird. Anyway, 3 in the top 30 is awesome. Jace Young, obviously going to get a lot more of a look at third base this year is the presumption. So we'll see if he can take a huge rise if he really thrives there at the new position. Colt Keith, I'm expecting to make the opening day roster. Jackson Jobe, it wouldn't shock me if he was in the majors in the second half of the year, post-trade deadline. But I think 2025, kind of bigger sample size is what most people are banking on. Max Clark, obviously, still pretty low in the organization right now. But now that he kind of has his feet wet, could mash and rise pretty quickly as well. So, just wanted to kind of point that out as far as the top prospects in the on the list entirely. I know a lot of people were upset because Evan Carter was 4th, and Evan Carter was like a middle of the lineup bat for a team that literally won the World Series in the the latter half of the year and at some point in the playoffs. So some people were mad that he wasn't like the consensus bona fide. Of course, he's number one. Hit really well, obviously, but I think they're arguing upside versus current talent. Jackson Holliday, to no surprise to anybody, is the number one prospect in all of baseball. I would be shocked if any website out there didn't have Jackson Holliday as the number one prospect in baseball. Jackson Chourio of the Brewers, number two. Junior Caminero for the Rays, number three. And then, like I said, Evan Carter for the Rangers, number four. I'm expecting Jackson Holliday to fly through the minor league system for the O's, and I'm really fascinated in what they do with him at the major league level. And then and we don't have to spend too much time on not the Detroit Tigers, but we got everything I want to talk about out of the way, so we'll end on this. They just have so much infield depth and shortstop depth and second base depth and third base. Like they're just such a deep organization when it comes to prospects right now that Joey Gallo signs with the Nats. Good for him. A lot of stuff happening right now as I'm recording. A lot of stuff. A lot of sports news going on. But yeah, I'm really fascinated in what they do with Holiday at the major league level when he's ready, just given how, Gunner, et cetera, like how much depth they kind of have and of people that share a Jackson Holiday profile. Obviously Holiday, though, the consensus number one prospect in baseball. If he's hitting well, you got to find a spot for him. So we'll see what happens there, but I'm pretty fascinated if the Orioles just refuse to spend money and are just like, LOL, we have the best farm system you've ever seen. Deal with it. We'll see what happens. I'm kind of expecting them to regress a little bit, and not like they're going to lose, 90, but just like I would be pretty surprised if the O's won 100 next year. But I expect them to be in the mix and in the playoff hunt still, etc. So we'll see. But there you go. Baseball America rolling out theirs. Pipeline America is a subscription-based website, so I don't like using them too often. They're fantastic. Don't get me wrong. I use them for my own sources and whatnot, but I don't like using them on the pod as much, just because I want to discuss things that are accessible to everybody. I don't want it to be like, oh, like we're talking about this and it's behind a paywall, you can't see it. But Pipeline should be releasing their prospects list as well. So we'll spend some more time kind of breaking down those. Pipeline will do organization top 30 prospects. So we'll see the new 2024 top 30 prospects for the Detroit Tigers ranking. We'll obviously break that all down. Pacoda rankings will come out within the next couple of weeks. That'll be like win-loss projection based on some formula that was made up. We'll talk about, we always spend a whole episode and talk about that every year. Just talk about what I like and don't like, because I always butt heads with it. I want to talk about lineup cards soon. There's a lot of, it's an AJ Hinch team, so you're not going to see the same lineup twice too terribly often, but I do want to discuss that. We have plenty of conversations still to be had until spring training and pitchers and catchers report in just a few weeks, baby. Just a few weeks. All right. I appreciate you all greatly. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. Y'all rock. The continued support that this show gets during like the quote unquote dead part of the off season when not too much is happening is awesome. And this is truly a dream come true for me to be able to do this. So you allow me to live that out. I appreciate you all so much, more than you will ever know. We'll be back on Friday. Peace and love. Going to therapy's dope. And I'll catch you all then, baby. Go Tigers.